All right, so yeah, finally the day is here. I've been looking forward to this one. No Rest for the Wicked is currently out in early access, and with it comes a lot of opinions. In fact, we're sitting at a mixed rating currently on Steam. So, what in the world is going on? We're going to go over a lot of this because there are some very legit concerns and complaints about this game, and the dev team actually responds about what to expect from future updates, what they're going to be doing to address complaints and that sort of thing. And I'm going to give my own opinion about the game because I've been playing it a lot lately. And yeah, we're going to dive into that as we go. But first, let's start out with the official stuff right here, what they're going to be doing based on the feedback that people are currently giving about the game. So they say this: we're overjoyed with the initial response to No Rest for the Wicked, and we're already getting great feedback from you all, our players. Now, we want to develop this game alongside all of you, as we've mentioned. So to that point, we wanted to share what we're seeing as the hottest feedback, ask for features and common issues players are seeing, keyword mapping, aspect ratio limitations, performance improvements, and yes, the ability to actually pause the game. I really cannot believe that's not in the game. But yeah, they also have some links here where you can give your feedback if you want to. Yes, this is an early access game, and it is at a lower price as well. But there are those issues. One of the biggest issues that people are complaining about is the performance of the game. We saw that with Dragon's Dogma 2. It sat at about like a 50% rating when that game released. This is a very similar scenario, but there's more complaints just beyond the performance as well. But again, it looks like the dev team are very aware of this stuff. They have stated this is early access, and they are going to be getting to work on addressing a lot of the performance issues, it looks like. So yeah, if you're not into early access, just wait for this game to get out of early access. There will be a time when this game releases in its full state and then eventually also come to PS5 and Xbox Series X. But it seems like they really do want, like, I guess you would say, some beta testing before they do the full release on a large scale, because they will be adding multiplayer to this game as well. Now, also, let's talk about, hey, how successful was the launch of this game? So yeah, we saw a player count nearly reaching 34,000 concurrent users at launch. Not too shabby considering it's not the weekend. Very curious to see if this amount goes up for the weekend or down, and if this game, by word of mouth goes viral or not. That's ultimately going to be up to you guys to see if there is an audience here for this one. Now, the co-founder of Moon Studios did clarify what to expect going forward from early access. So let's go ahead and go over what he said here. So he says this right here: to follow up on common questions about the scope of our early access launch of No Rest for the Wicked. These numbers speak for early access launch day one and do not represent the full game. The 25-hour is not a ceiling for a singular playthrough. That's like, they were saying that it takes about 25 hours from beginning to end to complete the game, but there is replayability systems, and the end game will have much more to play for much longer. And then you do have the classes, the loose class system to really mess around with. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment, by the way, my own experience. And then every subsequent playthrough with a new character weapon build is proving out to be very fun and substantial in our play testing. Town-made systems like housing, fishing, and crafting are shipping day one. Now, there's 100 weapons with each offering unique movesets to try out, rune specials, and so much more. So yeah, it seems like there's a good deal of content here, given that this is early access, so that's notable. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of this. Let's go ahead and find out what everyone is saying on the Steam reviews. And then I'm going to go ahead and reply about this and give my own take from my time with the game so far. So let's do this. So here's the first one. By the way, what I'm going to do here is we're going to go negative review first, positive, negative, positive, and go flip back and forth and see what people are saying. So here we go. We have this one from Sarith, who says this right here: I'm not too far into the game, but my first impressions are negative. For one, context-sensitive exploration is incredibly rough. Having your dodge button also be your sprint button, which is also your climb button, barely works when there's no exploration. But when there's a focus on poking your nose in the environment and a fixed camera, not having a specific button tied to jumping or sprinting or what have you is incredibly frustrating. So my take on this, I want them to remap the dodge button and the sprint button. It would be nice to have the sprint button. I'm playing on an Xbox controller, by the way. It'd be nice to have the sprint button on A and then like the roll button on B. That's just me. I think that would work much better. I completely understand that complaint. That is 100% legit, and it would be nice to have that as an option. Now, next up, we have this right here. We're going to continue with his review here, his mini review. It says, then there's the combat, which feels like someone learned the wrong lessons from other stamina combat games. Lots of enemy groups, which attack in staggered patterns and don't flinch from your attack unless they are one of the weapon abilities which require a resource or via pairing. And my opinion on this one right here is that I think that enemies need to stagger a little bit more when you hit them, but there is a bit of an ebb and flow here between dodging and trying to open up some space between the enemies. You really have to manage enemies much like a Souls game or an Elden Ring game, but I feel like when you are hitting them, sometimes they're just powering through it and just hitting you as well. And I feel like if you're timing your dodge as well and you get the hit in, yeah, it's an interesting system. And I do get some of the complaints here. As for pairing, I think that system definitely needs to be revisited and fine-tuned a little bit more. I've struggled a bit with pairing so far. It could be that I'm still very early in the game. But then again, I've also found some really badass weapons. I hope to highlight that here in just a moment. And I do like the stealth that you're seeing right here. The stealth moves are just really, really cool. That's something that I did not expect from the game. And yeah, I'm really embracing a lot of the stealth stuff as well. Now, let's get into this and keep going, shall we? So yeah, he talks about dodging, but I did want to talk about this. So what that leads to is an incredibly tedious crowd management where you circle the crowd, wait for all enemies in question to sort of get stuck on each other or initiate attack, which leaves you to open to actually attack them, and then immediately repeat this process until you have enough energy for a special weapon attack that can do actual damage, or until you slowly whittle down the enemy group. And that's part of the gameplay loop. If you're not into that, building up this focus meter, the focus meter is really, really important in this game. So yeah, and I think a lot of people from the reviews that I've been reading, we're expecting this to be a pure ARPG, much like Diablo 4, where you just absolutely become godlike and go in there and just wreck like hundreds of enemies on screen at once. That is definitely not this game. However, unfortunately, this game is being advertised in its description as an ARPG, which I personally think, that's a mistake. Because people have a mindset of what to expect from that, hearing that, hey, this is an ARPG, this is what I expect. But then they get, something like that's more Souls-like, Elden Ring. And then I think there's some confusion with that as well. Now, let's get into a positive review, shall we? So we have this one right here from Kaomon, who says, lower performance and some minor bugs so far. By the way, this is a recommended vote here. Just an entry review, so to say it's working and seems fun, safe to buy right now without any major crashing or issues. We'll get into like some people that are saying the opposite of this. As far as I can tell, you can't remap keys, and it seems more tailored to a controller experience. Even recommends that right out of the gates. Very similar to Dragon's Dogma 2. No real graphic settings either, just some preset options. It's a recommend if you can deal with all of this, but I feel like there's a gem of a game inside. We'll update review if I notice anything changes in terms of game-breaking bugs. Yeah, so far, personally, I've been enjoying this game, and we're hearing some mention of lower performance and stuff like that. Yes, there are definitely jitters. There's some frame rate issues, especially like with the streaming when you enter a new region or what have you. There was a warning from the co-founder that yes, that was going to be the case with this game. But again, in my experience, as you can see, this is my gameplay. It's so far and few in between. And overall, there's a little stutter there, but overall, it's running really decently on my machine. I'm at a 3090 graphics card, by the way. Very good processor, but don't get me wrong, there's definitely room for improvement here. But yeah, let's get into a downvote here. Let's check out and see what Warpals had to say about the game. So let's read on here. It says, I want to like this, but the performance is just not as good. It's just not in a good place, for me to recommend it right now. For context, I'm playing on a 4080, 13900K at 14p, and the game can drop into the low 20s in combat. So he's trying to really push the resolution there somewhat. There's also a huge amount stutter that can kick in during traversal or combat, which adds extra weight to the performance headache. The settings don't really seem to scale either. Dropping from max quality to performance seems to net me no extra performance. My GPU is locked at 100% for most of the time, so I'm not sure it's a CPU bottleneck. Either way, I really want to like this. From what I've seen so far outside of the performance issues, there's a lot of good and well thought out systems in place. That's definitely true. I understand this is an early access title, but I feel like the performance issues almost make the game unplayable right now. Wow, really? I'd recommend waiting for patches before picking this one up, sadly. So yeah, that's always an option, and why not? Like, wait for full release. I am sure they're going to add a lot. In fact, like in the menu, there is DLSS settings that are grayed out, and it says coming soon. So we don't even have like DLSS as an option because we are very clearly in early access. If you want to be an early access adopter, the only thing is you are essentially a beta tester. You get that reduced price for that type of experience and a warning label that goes with it. But I'm willing to check it out. So far, again, like I'm really enjoying it. Now, let's get into recommended upvote, shall we? So we have this one from Nospirituzad, I believe. Quick review to battle the negative one. So it says, first off, it's a pre-release and we'll have fixes over time. Reason for the discounted price. Also, stop leaving bad reviews on things that don't fit your normal play style. Just ask for a refund. You get 2 hours to test it. All you're doing is corrupting a system to help people who enjoy those style games from deciding on trying it themselves. Again, you know, the Steam page, it clearly says that this is an ARPG. People go in with a mindset of what to expect from that, what to anticipate from that. They don't go into this expecting a Souls type game or an Elden Ring. So I do think that's where the miscommunication is coming in that regard. All right, then we have number one, complaining about mechanics. If you don't like the mechanics or style, that's your personal opinion and does not affect gameplay. It's like any other game. If you can't figure out things, that's on you. Haha. Took all of 5 seconds to figure out how to equip gear and use it properly. By the way, that's something that I'm enjoying about the game. It doesn't have like an overwhelming amount of hand holding. It does give you an idea of what to do, but I personally like how the game is presented and how you can kind of like get lost and explore the world, which, by the way, the world is, in my opinion, the art style is beautiful. Also, we have this one right here. Stop expecting all games to treat you like a child. Hand feed you everything. That is what has ruined gaming. Totally agree. Gameplay is smooth so far. Combat is decent and interesting. For the type of game, graphics are nice. And I wanted to combat the negative reviews of people who played like 5 minutes and it doesn't fit their style. They just go on to bash it. So yeah, it's like a wide variety of opinions going on right now. Some people are clearly struggling with the identity of what this game is. It's definitely its own thing. It's very unique in that regard. By the way, I did want to talk and touch base a little bit about the story without spoiling it. So far, to me, the story and the presentation behind that is actually very interesting, and I'm interested. You know, I'm like curious to learn more about this world. And there's just some stories lately which have been very underwhelming in that regard. And I feel like a good open world RPG deserves a really good story. And I'm hoping that's what we get here. At least it's, you know, they have something interesting going on there. And I do like the art style. Now, mentioning the art style, the graphics, the presentation, I myself did run into some, I guess you would call it like rainbowing artifacting on some of the characters. Very strange looking. That's one of my biggest complaints when it comes to the issues that I have been dealing with, even more so over any like small jitters that I've experienced. Yeah, you know, when you get into the cinematic and you see like some rainbowing or whatever this weird, strange glitch is that is happening, it is distracting. But again, I took the risk and yeah, I decided to go all in on this early access experience for sure. Now, let's go over the comments here. Your top comments from my previous video about No Rest for the Wicked. I almost said No Man's Sky. But yeah, let's get into your comments, shall we? So we have Otto, who says the item icons and the character style is very unique and appealing. And there's some comments down here where people just do not like the character designs at all. They're very different, stylistic. You know, I wouldn't compare it to Fable exactly, but there's some things about this that definitely does remind me a little bit of Fable, which I love the Fable franchise, so I'm there for it. Now, Chibi says, I love Ori. I hope this is good. I'm just weary of what's available at release. I think for the price point, the actual content that's available is probably going to be legit and worth it. Again, if you get past things like the performance issues and that this is more Souls-like in terms of combat instead of ARPG, then yeah, I definitely think this is something worthwhile. Next up, we have Pink Floyd. Yeah, this game's definitely a Souls-like, but it looks really good. But I just don't know if I can support early access on a story-driven game. I didn't do it for Baldur's Gate 3 either. Yeah, there's always a risk with, adopting a game early access. I mean, isn't Star Citizen still like an early access? $500 million later, years and years later. But it seems like they want their timeline to get onto consoles out of early access to be quicker than Starfield at least. And yeah, I think this is a good start for this game for sure. But anyway, there it is. I myself, I'm enjoying this one. I'm going to keep playing it and get deeper into the experience and let you guys know and update you. Like, I hope to do a full-blown review and give my super honest opinion. Yes, there are some performance issues on my end, but nothing that is like crashing or jitters every 5 seconds. It's only with like certain areas that I stream into, one little jitter, and then for like, I guess you would say 15 minutes, no jitters whatsoever. At least on my end, that's my personal experience. But yeah, there it is. I'll keep you guys in the know about this one, and also there's some other cool stuff coming up. So stay tuned. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.